So in case you didn't see it on the previous video, even though I wrote a little bit of a extra word in there under civil being pagan, but it's the Handbook on Civil Registration and Vital Statistics Systems, Management, Operation, and Maintenance, Revision 1. So this is how thick it is, about 148 pages. So get to reading in there. You're going to find out what's coming because there's a lot of info in there. So they're prepared to squeeze the life out of you. They even have a terminology there called the Anaconda Program. So I don't know how more obvious they could be turning up the steam, but it appears that the vast majority of the audience will die as it was in the days of Noah. They will take no note, and then they'll just be swept away in this. So God's people basically have to take refuge away from this, and their refuge is coming because Christ died for that refuge. He placed a sanctuary within your name. And you have to know the difference between what is what. But Satan is definitely turning up the steam through his lies and his fiction system run by lawyers. So we know that the issuance of a legal tender identity is definitely this instrument that has been issued. And it's even getting more pronounced in Canada. Most of these, what used to be called the wallet size short form certificate, birth certificate, is now in the format of an actual piece of legal tender that looks like the issued Bank of Canada money with a barcode on the back and certain, of course, security features on it. But it's definitely in the essence of what now definitely takes on the form of legal tender. So this shouldn't surprise us as God's people, because if you're reading the Bible, then you'll realize that this is the only book that's going to tell you what's going on. Don't be looking into law books, so to speak. I can find the prophecy unfolding by just seeing what they're doing, as I showed you in that, basically 2018, new civil registration program by the UN. But when we look at that, we came into the world pure, innocent, without cause. And then we were born on after a very important event, which brings Jesus Christ as the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. There is nobody whose knee is not going to bend to him in the final end on this. God wins, Satan loses, and his kingdoms lose, and the World Health Organization and the UN are going to go down in prophecy. They will be destroyed. So we're basically now in a situation to at least comprehend why things have been framed in the way they have, the framework, but this is just a frame, a hearsay, because they're suggesting or making a suggestion or an offer to you to join. So they leave the offer over your head and see whether or not you'll just take the bait. And their situation is nothing that we should be surprised of. When you look at 1 Peter, we've read this scripture many times. 2 Peter chapter 2, it talks about false prophets also arose among the people, just as there will also be false teachers among you, who will secretly introduce destructive heresies. Well, that's called humanism, because humanism denies the divinity of Christ and God's supremacy. It says that man can perfect himself through the idea of commerce or secularism. So it says, who will secretly introduce destructive heresies, even denying the master who bought them, bringing swift destruction upon themselves. And many will follow their sensuality and because of them, the way of the truth will be maligned. And in their greed, they will exploit you with false words. Their judgment from long ago is not idle, and their destruction is not asleep. Now, when I read the King James Bible, because it actually seems to go more into a little bit of introducing words that would make more sense in the legal system, this chapter starts off in the King James of that same, I read it of the New American Standard. It says, "But there were false prophets among the people, even as there shall be false teachers among you, who privily shall bring in damnable heresies, even denying the Lord that bought them, and bring upon themselves swift destruction." Well, we know a damnable heresy would be to write a definition for the term legal surname, which identifies somebody in the legal system of the world kingdoms on an identity document issued for legal tender. And basically, they define that a surname is a name over and above the Christian name. So they're saying it is superior to, which would mean that is blasphemy. So therefore, they have brought in damnable heresies. We go further in verse 2, and it says, "And many shall follow their pernicious ways, by reason of whom the way of truth shall be evil spoken of. And through covetousness shall they with feigned words make merchandise of you." Now it says, "And through covetousness shall they with feigned words." You look up the word fiction, which is in the law books. Black's Law will define fiction or legal fiction as to feign. So it is a feigned belief that you are the property of the legal state and not the property of your true creator, and the fact that you would be the purchased property of the highest source of life, who sent his only begotten Son to be the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. So nothing is new. The wordings are here, and it's telling you the warning message of what you're experiencing at this moment.